I've always been a huge fan of animation. As a kid, I loved shows on early 2000s Cartoon Network, like The Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy and Codename Kid Next Door, being some of my favorite shows. I was always a fan of the more mature animated shows, and as an adult, I still find myself drawn towards animated shows that manage to tell a compelling story through the medium. Animation lets creators explore deep themes while pairing them with colorful worlds, exciting design, and imaginative character designs, and I continue to find myself really enjoying watching animation. Today I'm going to go over my 5 favorite animated shows of all time and give a little pitch for why you should check them out. So I do have a few quick honorable mentions, the first up being Smiling Friends. I recently dropped a mini video essay on why the pilot of Smiling Friends is nearly perfect, how it establishes all the main character dynamics and themes of the show in a seamless way. And this show's really become one of my favorite animated shows in the past year or so. Blending absurdist humor and zany characters with hints of real thematic depth, Smiling Friends follows 2 employees of an organization whose primary job is exactly what it sounds like, to make people smile. Not to cure their depression for good or solve all their problems, just to get them to smile once, by any means possible, then their job is done. It's such a good setup in the chaotic and ridiculous world of this show, as it opens up the door to all kinds of misdirection and subversion around what actually gets someone to smile. Without giving too much away, the show's typical idea is that the usual prescription for happiness doesn't really work for everyone. What finally gets someone to smile might be completely unexpected and even kind of messed up. Another honorable mention on the list is South Park. Some folks might initially write South Park off as being overly perverse or offensive, and at times it definitely can walk that line very closely. But that's sort of always been the point of South Park. It pushes the boundaries of what material could be explored in a show, animated or not, and behind a lot of the political incorrectness and perversion, there is actually some really solid social commentary and satire to ever make it into a show. Compared to other animated shows that attempt to balance out crude humor with social commentary, South Park stands out because of its fundamental understanding of human social dynamics and psychology. Behind a lot of the over-the-top and at times gratuitous profanity, the writers Matt Stone and Trey Parker really do have a deep understanding of social issues and group psychology. Many episodes end up being really thought-provoking and offer incisive social critique underneath it all. It makes you pause and consider what actually drives human social behavior in a new light. If you can get past some of its edginess, I do recommend checking out South Park. Alright, so coming in at number 5, we've got a pretty recent show from the past few years, Arcane. Arcane Season 1 is probably one of my favorite overall seasons of a television show ever created, animated or not. And it's probably the best season on this list from a critical standpoint as well. Every aspect of the show, from the animation to the story, world building, character development, voice acting, music, they're all top tier. It has masterfully written characters who are all multi-dimensional, not singularly good or bad, and they behave in ways that make sense given the experiences they've lived through. Existing in a cruel world where no one's completely unjustified in the decisions they make, you sympathize with both sides of complex conflicts, giving the show a distinct human quality. Nothing is purely black or white, everything's a shade of gray, and the show develops really a high degree of nuance around its conflict. The world building in Arcane is also top tier, with Runeterra feeling like a fully formed and lived-in universe. Pair this with some of the most detailed animation in any show, specifically around facial micro-expressions, which really convey strong emotions, paired with an amazing soundtrack. It's just a top show from every dimension. The show would have been higher on this list, but to be honest, I really just didn't enjoy Arcane Season 2 as much as Season 1. The animation, music, and character design on the surface are still awesome. I just feel like it missed the high standards set by Season 1 in terms of clever dialogue, emotional resonance, and thematic payoff. The show really missed Silco as a complex antagonist the second season. I also felt like Victor's potential as a villain wasn't fully realized, and it came off more as weird than deeply profound to me. But overall, it was still a solid season, and Arcane's just an incredible show, offering some of the most compelling character development and thematic depth. I really recommend checking it out. Alright, so up to number 4 is Scavenger's Reign, which dropped on Max about a year and a half ago. I was just floored by how immersive, otherworldly, and hypnotic this show is. One of my main criteria for evaluating a show or movie is how transportive it is, how quickly the barrier between viewer and screen dissolves, and I gotta say it's pretty much instantaneous with this show. You're immediately immersed and engaged by the show's psychedelic quality from the first episode, which just entrances you. You're transported to a planet named Vesta, where a maroon crew is trying their best to survive amidst all sorts of unique flora and fauna that they encounter on this planet. The creatures display a wide array of adaptations, similar to what you'd see on Earth in a high biodiversity area, every niche being occupied by an organism with its own adaptation that allows it to thrive in that environment, and also exists in a complex ecosystem of relationships with other organisms in that ecosystem. There's so many unique creations on display here, each having their own distinct animation style and ability. The showrunners really make full use of the creative license they have to come up with some really unique stuff. The show felt inventive, otherworldly, and immersive, with the planet of Vesta feeling like its own character, similar to the forest in Princess Mononoke, which is another one of my favorite animated features that focuses on nature. Pair the creative world with interesting character studies, thematic subtlety. The show really struck me and it stood out among the modern science fiction shows of today, and I highly recommend you check it out if you have a chance. Alright, on to number 3. We have the only anime on this list, and a show that's worth checking out even for non-anime fans like myself. Attack on Titan isn't just on this list because it's an incredible anime. It's on this list because it's an incredible show that transcends any specific genre. I'm hard-pressed to think of a show, animated or not, that progressively builds a mystery and intrigue the way that AOT does. The show feels like a puzzle that gives you bits and pieces of lore and content, but keeps the full picture from forming just out of reach until the perfect moment where it all comes together and reveals the full picture in a way that completely recontextualizes the show in a really meaningful and interesting way. Pair the fascinating story with deep themes, with fast-paced action and hype typical of anime, it makes AOT one of the most entertaining and exciting shows I've ever seen. So I haven't even mentioned the soundtrack yet. The first time I heard this, I was immediately bought into the epic scale of the show. Some of the best scenes contain some of the most epic musical sequences I've heard in any show, animated or not, that really elevate the emotional impact and payoff to incredible heights. AOT without a doubt has one of my favorite soundtracks of any show, and it's a crucial part of what makes the show as good as it is. AOT would be even higher on this list potentially if it didn't lose a little bit of momentum in its story by the end, with a convoluted narrative losing some of its scope and emotional appeal of the earlier seasons. Even if you're not a fan of anime, give AOT a chance, you won't regret it. So number 2 is a bit of a hidden gem. It might be a show you've never heard of, but it does have a cult following, a show out of Cartoon Network called Over the Garden Wall. No show I've seen in recent memory captures a feeling of whimsy and adventure like Over the Garden Wall. It presents a seamless blend of mystery and charm that makes for the perfect fall watch. Without giving too much away, the main premise is it follows 2 brothers, Greg and Wirt, who find themselves lost in a mystical woods called the Unknown. The 2 brothers encounter a series of strange places and zany characters in these woods, and they have to overcome all sorts of obstacles on their trek to find their way home. Watching this show is really an experience, and it produces an atmosphere that I've only encountered in some Studio Ghibli films, and it's a real hidden gem worth checking out. Alright, so number 1 on the list, my favorite, and the very best animated show of all time, there's no debate to be had, has to be Avatar: The Last Airbender. I could go on and on about Atla, the way it balances childhood charm with profound themes, how it manages to have humor that lands with both younger and adult audiences, the best character development and narrative payoff in pretty much any show I've ever seen. The list just goes on and on. The world building in Atla is also next level, introducing lore and history that have strong real-world parallels that are quite mature. Pair this with an incredible soundtrack, Atla's just a show that's top tier across any conceivable metric you can think of. My favorite parts of Atla, and the biggest strengths of the show in my opinion, are the incredible character development and world building. 2 of my favorite characters in any show, animated or not, have to be Iroh and Zuko. The level of care and depth put into these characters is not something you typically encounter in a TV show, and really feels like something you'd only get to see in a book series. The show helps you understand that they both are multidimensional, having flaws and strengths, and multiple forces pulling against them, as their family and national affiliations pull them one way, while their moral compasses push them another. Zuko's redemption arc is one of the very best in TV, period. It builds slowly over time and feels completely earned when it finally lands. It's the redemption arc that Jaime Lannister could have had in Game of Thrones, before Thrones Season 8 turned that arc into a circle. Iroh's charm and wisdom also separate him from most other shows in terms of the level of characterization. The way Iroh consistently drops bits of wisdom that he's learned throughout his life experiences in the show is really satisfying and wholesome, and I can't think of a character who kind of plays that role as well as him in any show, animated or not, in recent memory. Pair this top-notch character work with incredible world building, a cast of talented voice actors, next level epic music, and incredible action sequences, Atlas is a show that will leave a mark on both younger and more mature audiences, and I think it's objectively one of the best animated shows of all time, as well as my personal favorite. So that's going to wrap up my list of my favorite animated shows of all time. As an obvious disclaimer, I haven't seen plenty of shows that I imagine are very good, and this list could without a doubt change over time. Let me know in the comments if you have any favorite animated shows you recommend checking out. Thanks for watching as always, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.